What's up everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we need to have a very serious conversation about your Cloud Clash shop priorities. We're now officially entering the first couple of rotations of Cloud Clash since the event has came out, and I'm still seeing a massive number of players making the exact same resource mistake. We touched upon it a little bit on the last video, and this video is sponsored by Innomation, who did a massive comment on our last video pretty much explaining why the best value out of the shop is for you to get your mandrakes. So if you've been struggling to figure out what you should buy from the shop, or if you just feel like you're not making the best use of your Cloud Blossoms, and you feel like you're not making any meaningful progression in your Hawkins, this video is exactly what you need. So we're going to start from a baseline, and then from there we're going to dive deeper into like the actual math that Eno left for us in the comment. So the golden rule for Cloud Clash, and I do agree with Eno here, is to go ahead and get your mana drakes. If you can, all of them. Last video I recommended you only do the blue ones. However, as we progress and since we just got this final potion event, I really did see value to just go ahead and get all of them. Now I know exactly what you're probably thinking right now. You're looking at your shop, you're looking at the total cost of what it would take you to buy the blue, purple, and orange mana drakes, and you see that it's going to run you around 132,000 of those coins. Like right now, I could barely go ahead and buy the whole slot with my 141k coins. And you might feel like you're not going to be able to afford that every single week, especially if you also want to save up for the Cloak Trickster and the Mat Stitcher. But I'm here to tell you that not only is it 100% worth it to invest in these, but that I feel you're going to definitely progress slower if you don't go ahead and buy your mana drakes. So Eno actually points out that in order to understand what we're saying, you need to understand the synthesis system. So if you didn't know, if you go into your box and you look for your mana drakes, you can go ahead and synthesize your blue leaves into purple leaves, and then those purple leaves into golden leaves, and then later on gold leaves into red leaves. However, if you're purely doing synthesis, for example, only buying the blue leaves and then expecting to turn those from blue into all the way to gold or red, it's really not the best value because of how much gold it actually takes and just the conversion rate being 10 to 1. To understand it better, let's just break it down into simple math. You need 10 blue mana drakes to synthesize 1 purple mana drake. Then you need 10 purple mana drakes to synthesize 1 golden mana drake. So to put into perspective, 100 gold mana drakes is the exact equivalent of 1,000 purple mana drakes, or if you want to look at it this way, 10,000 blue mana drakes. And that's not even taking into account the red mana drakes, which require 10 gold mana drakes. So you can see how that can start to scale up extremely quickly, especially when you consider that in the shop, a pack of 5,000 blue mana drakes costs you around 40,000 Cloud Blossoms. Let's say you want to synthesize those into orange mana drakes at some point. To get 100 of those, as we discussed previously, you need 10,000 of them. And buying 10,000 of them will cost you around 80,000 Cloud Blossoms. However, if you were to just buy the 100 orange blossoms directly, it'll only cost you 64,000, meaning that you're essentially saving around 16,000 Cloud Blossoms, which is the equivalent of 200 purple mana drakes, which is already a level 7 Halcyon on its own. So you can imagine how the exact same thing applies to the blue tier. If you were to get the 400 purple mana drakes, that costs you around 28,000. But if you were to synthesize the blue mana drakes into purple mana drakes, it would run you for around 40,000 blossoms, versus just buying them outright at 32,000 blossoms. So by this point, I think we understand that going from blue into gold is not the most efficient. So what should be your actual purchase priority when looking at this event? You should always try to get your orange blossoms first, then your purples, and then your blues. Now you might want to do this on a need-be basis. However, at the very start, I would recommend you just buy all of them. Now something that a lot of you guys even pointed out on my last video was, why should I spend all my blossoms on mana drakes when, if I just do pulls on the potion events, I'll be able to get all the mana drakes I need. I got everybody max leveled, free to play, and I've never spent a single dime on any additional blossoms. Now something that I think is super important for everybody to grasp about this game is that whenever you're spending money or deciding to spend currency, you really want to use it on things that will guarantee you progress further into the game, and not stuff that maybe will give you a boost, especially when you're looking at the actual drop rates of your leaves. Since you're only looking at around a 6.2% to get a good drop of leaves versus a 10% of just getting 50 leaves, which is really, really bad. You will get obviously some leaves, and this is going to be a good bonus whenever you are already doing your Golden Clover events and using all your potions. However, this is not a guaranteed source of leaves and nothing that is actually predictable so you can continue to level up your account. And even if that was the case and you were able to get a whole lot of blue leaves, let's remember that the synthesize cost is tenfold. So for you to actually get those blue leaves into purple leaves and then into golden leaves and then into red leaves, it's going to cost you a lot more, on top of it not being a guarantee. Now, should you actually even buy the potions from the shop, I think they're also decent value. However, let's keep into account that you can only buy around 20 potions a week, which is the equivalent of around 2,000 gems. Now, saving 2,000 gems might sound pretty good when you're looking at gem value, especially if you span that out across multiple weeks. That's 2,000 in savings every single week. However, the amount of resources that you're spending on that you won't be spending on getting your future set of leaves, and obviously you still want the Cloaked Trickster at the end of the day, the delay that you will be getting from spending on soul elixirs will be vastly outweighed from just spending on your mandrakes and then saving for your Cloaked Trickster, which you absolutely still want. I guess you can make the same argument for the Matte Stitcher. So let's think about how many of these coins will you actually be getting. We're gonna take a baseline of around a rank 100. Now in my server, I am probably like top 30, definitely top 50, and I'm able to rank in my little Cloud Clash at around the top 24 to maybe top 30 every single time. So again, that's why I'm taking a baseline of you landing in the top 100 ranks. At that point, your baseline production is around 1.5k blossoms every hour during the 12-hour period that the event is actually live for, and 750 blossoms per hour during the night hours, that is another 12 hours. So that comes to be around 27,000 blossoms every single day that the event is active. So over the course of the 2 days that you will get of production, you'll be getting around 54,000 blossoms. And just because I got a lot of slack on my last video telling you how to get over 70,000 gems, we're taking the most conservative approach, assuming in the first day you were super inefficient and you really weren't producing that many. Afterwards, every night you're going to get an additional reward, which for our hypothetical 100 rank player is around 12,000 every single day. So if you multiply that by 3, you're looking at around 36,000-ish additional blossoms during the period of the event. So at the end of the day, you should be able to get around 50,000 blossoms approximately. And then at the very end of the event, you get a actual cut out of however many rewards we were able to generate, and depending on your ranking, right? So we could say that you're going to get an additional around 50,000 blossoms after the full period ends as just an additional currency because you participated. If you want to be a Giga Sweat, you should get around 3 free attacks every day, each of them giving you roughly 5,000 blossoms, which is around 15,000 across the 2 days or 3 days, however you want to calculate that. That could be anywhere from 30,000 additional blossoms to 45,000 additional blossoms just from doing your attacks. So there's actually another strategy where if you go ahead and fight somebody and you take away your team, you lose to them, and then you try to fight them again, you get a revenge bonus where you get a couple of extra blossoms. But I think that's too sweaty even for me. So you could say that on average versus my previous estimations where you could get like around 100,000 blossoms, you're getting closer to maybe 186,000 blossoms, if not 200,000, if you were able to rank higher, which, let's be honest, most people are probably going to be able to, assuming you're in a good server. Again, this is going to really depend on like your situation, right? So we go back to talking about the resource efficiency and actually resource spending, right? We have discussed that we should be able to generate roughly around 180 to 200,000 of this currency. And yes, even though you will be spending around 132,000 of it to get all of your mandrakes, you are guaranteeing yourself power, pushing harder content and progressing other aspects of the game. And then you will still have some left over, so you will be able to get your Cloaked Trickster and your Matte Stitcher. And by the time you get them, your other Hulking will be very highly invested, and you will be able to continue the cycle and then just invest into the Cloaked Trickster and the Matte Stitcher and make them even stronger. However, with the additional bonuses and damage that you already have, Cloaked Trickster's bonuses will be even higher than before. So I know we discussed a lot of math on this video. Hopefully I didn't get too many of you guys confused. And if we can make a quick TLDR, just make sure you're buying your damn leaves. See ya.
Our bombs are gone, a foolish price.